Good morning and afternoon, everybody, depending on where you are. If you're watching on TV, you're watching on the Smart Money Culture TV network, as well as joining from around the world on all of these wonderful platforms that we stream on. Soon we'll be streaming on Rumble as well. Go over there and follow the Impact Money Show. Make sure you follow the Impact Money Show on Rumble too. Crazy, of course, as it always is. A lot going on today. Let me get my lighting here a little bit more like I like it. Sure, that'll work a little better. Let's see here. A lot going on. Of course, Trump, they're talking about sentencing Trump. They're gonna try to put him in jail. What do you think that sentencing is gonna be? I mean, they've tried everything else, even assassination. So I have to think they're going to put him in jail. What do you guys think? Are they going to sentence Trump to prison? And this is in the so-called hush money case. It's funny how they give it a name like that. The hush money. It's the hush money case. I mean, it sounds cool. Of course, we had Bill Clinton back when I was a kid. Bill Clinton famously paid. It wasn't even just one person. It was multiple people, multiple women. He paid them all to be quiet, but I think they were actually quiet. Maybe they weren't. You have Juanita Broaddrick. She's on X now. She's a crowd favorite, and I don't know any of the story there. She could have done him totally wrong. I don't mean to if Juanita, if you're watching, I don't mean to make light of anything. I don't know the story. I know there was the Paula Jones girl. I think she got like $800 and something $1,000. I mean, shoot, Stormy, she only got $250,000 or something like that. And then they like to talk about the guy, his lawyer there, whatever his name is, Cohen. And he ran off with 20 or 30 grand, or he didn't report 20 or 30 grand or something like that. 20, 30 grand, nothing to these folks, guys. That's like chump change. I mean, you don't have to report that when you got a relationship like that. I mean, that's what I think. I don't think 20 or 30 grand is even worth talking about when you're dealing with those kind of numbers. That's a hotel stay in that arena for a weekend or something. You know what I mean? That's nothing. Go stay at the Waldorf for a few days, and that's that whole bit eaten up. We do have, of course, the situation over in around the world. I guess we have this, basically what's squaring off is a NATO BRICS clash of civilizations is what's happening. And of course that was happening over in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, and now it has come into Israel or the Middle East as well. Of course, Israel's not part of NATO, but they're U.S. and Israel are so intertwined that they are basically. And actually, Russia has blocked a number of different things that NATO is trying to do in the area. Of course, I think they did open up they are opening up some type of office there in Jordan. Jordan has agreed that they're going to, I guess, help Israel. Egypt says they're not. Saudi Arabia says we're trying to stay neutral. We're Switzerland. Saudi Arabia says we are Switzerland. Remains to see how that'll all play out. Of course, Russia's been sending in some pretty heavy stuff into Iran after this assassination in their capital. And, it's actually has now that you have Putin involved. It appears that there might be some more level heads on the field. Like they're not rushing to go and do stuff. I mean, you got to have that guy. That guy, you want Putin in your corner. If you're on the world stage, that's who you want. You don't want the U.S. The U.S. will, we're a mess, and we'll leave. But man, Putin, he's right there with you. Look at Syria. I mean, presidents all of them in line have wanted to take out Syria, because Syria is not part of the central banking cartel. And that's the big reason I talk about it all the time. But everybody's wanted to take him out, and Assad and Syria, and man, you got Putin, and you're okay. Gaddafi, he should have hopped in bed with Putin. He would have been better off. So now that Putin is involved in Iran, you see, of course, China as well has said we are going to back Iran. And you have the stage is set for a massive clash of civilizations. And we should all hope and pray that it doesn't happen, because as of yet, we haven't had a draft or anything like that in years, right? In decades. They even stopped. I think they stopped registering for the draft, or maybe they did. I don't remember. But then now they're going to draft our girls too. I mean, this is just like ridiculous, right? So everybody's set. So I probably have aged out of the draft, but I have daughters and stuff. It's like ridiculous. They're going to draft girls. It's like crazy. The weaponry now as well is just unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So on one hand, you're like, well, they're going to draft the kids, but on the other hand, it might be over so fast you don't even know. You don't even know. You know what I mean? And a couple of nukes this way and that way, and man, it's all over, guys. It's all over. And that's what they're talking about. And Iran, of course, says they have nukes now, and I'm sure they do. I mean, I'm sure they have for a long time, to be honest with you. Israel actually stole the nuclear technology from us. They've had them for quite a while from the U.S. Of course, you have, different factions over there as well. When the USSR broke apart years ago, there was all kinds of talks of missing nukes and this and that and the other. And who knows what came out of there. But anyway, markets are rebounding a bit. Crypto appears to be lagging on the rebound more than the stocks. The Nikkei immediately jumped out as the Japanese stock market immediately jumped up 10% last night as I was watching, or yesterday evening. And so that was kind of interesting that it had such a big jump. I have to think that was the banks buying back up and buying the dip as they do, which was probably, I'm sure I'm right. Of course, we'll have Matt on in a few minutes to talk about it. Also today, we're going to have on the great Fly Mackey, who is the president, the CEO of the Smart Money Culture TV network. When he puts us on TV in Texas and Louisiana, he's going to join the show at about 1:15 the hour, about 6:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 5:45 a.m. if you're watching on your TVs there in Texas and Louisiana. So that'll be interesting. Fly's an old friend of mine, and he wanted to come on the show. He said, you better have me on the show. All right, let's do it. I've been on his show. I don't think I've had him on my show. And then as well this week we have a number of great people lining up. Bitcoin Ben. Talked to my buddy Bitcoin Ben, picked up the phone and called him. I've been picking up the phone and calling people lately. Of course, I called Bo Polney on Sunday. I called Bitcoin Ben yesterday. Hey, what's up, man? And invited him on the show. So I think he will probably join what's today? Today's Tuesday. He'll probably join sometime this week as well. I'm interviewing Stephen Melnick. We're going to do a bit of a longer interview that will play. Of course, he's doing his Lives Amplified program, which I have. If you're watching on YouTube or something, you can see the link under there. You want to join that Lives Amplified. And then as well, I'm interviewing Bo Polney. I'm going to interview Bo Polney as well, which will probably be a longer interview as well. So that's going to be cool. And then our guy who does the remote viewing, I got to have him on again. I just have been thinking about it since I interviewed him. I got to have him on again. So he's raising money for his movie, and I think we should all help him out. And I want a remote view. Don't you want a remote view? I want my third eye working with land and whatever the heck else they're talking about. I mean, if they can do it, I can do it. That's my attitude all the time. If they can do it, I can do it. That's gotten me pretty far in my life. So anyway, markets are a bit rebounding. Gold was really steady. Gold was steady. I don't think it moved more than 2% this whole time. And even as we're talking here, I see Bitcoin moving down. And remember what I mentioned a number of times as well, Bitcoin and different commodities especially, but they do it in stocks as well. One of the businesses of the central bank is they remove liquidity from circulation through crashing of these markets. So they'll crash Bitcoin, they'll crash other commodities as well. And then you saw Soros, and Soros is head of Vanguard, and Vanguard is definitely in bed with the central banking cartel, and he crashed the market as well, selling 50% of Apple stock, and on and on and on. So these are coordinated things. They need to take in order to get inflation down, they need to take the money from you. That's so that they can print it and give it to other people. So if they're giving, I don't know if you've noticed some of the receipts and stuff that have been floating around the internet, but the people who come in illegally, and once they come in illegally and they claim asylum status, they're not illegal anymore. Then they have status, and so but once they have that asylum claim, then they're getting money from the government. Guys have $10,000, $12,000 sitting in their bank account, and they can buy food and all these other types of things. So that money has to come from somewhere. And if they're trying to keep the inflation down, because they do it by diluting the money supply, then they take it away from all of us, take it away from the traders, take it away from the people that bought into the ETFs, take it away from, all these other people so that they can't spend it. And then they don't have to, they can just print more, and the inflation will pretty much stay the same. All right, let's talk to the great Matt Dixon. I got my friend Matt, Sir Matt the Great. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm trying on a new computer this morning just to test it out. So maybe a couple little glitches, but in general, hopefully it'll run smoothly. So
awesome, man.
You're right. It's been a bit of a bounce back last night, hasn't it? I'm just going to try and share my screen as per usual.
Has been. I mean, especially, gosh, I saw that Nikkei jump like it was like over 10%. I think it was like 12%, but I mean, whatever, 10%. And I think it's like 8% or something now. But I mean, massive move, big move. That's how they roll, right?
Yeah. No, I don't know whether you can actually see my screen at the moment. Let me just check. I don't think you can. I put a chart up there. I don't think you can see my screen, can you, at the moment?
Not yet. Are you sharing within the software?
Yeah, it's for some reason got to go to system preferences. Okay. Let's just see. I don't know.
Well, it's pretty interesting as well as you're doing that. We have the Dow futures are up as well, signaling. The Fed had
a little bit. Yeah, I mean, we had a big move last night on Solana, so we dipped to 110.
Yeah.
Which was, I think, quite an interesting potential buy area. And it's jumped to 138 so far. So we're at 25% up from the low on Solana. So that's quite amazing.
Solana. This one, I mean, there's just so much money and people behind that. I mean, even there's a group there in New York, and they have like kind of a shared office space or whatever. And, it's like the brother network. They're all it's the old FTX guys. Nobody wants to talk about it, but that's who it is. And so they have a big skyscraper. They had a big skyscraper before. Now it's not the whole skyscraper. But yeah, man, they're just if you're in, and you're part of the crew, man, you just get the carte blanche. They'll give you an office there with 5 seats, and I mean, it's something else.
I'm still having problems sharing the screen on this new computer. I mean, I can go and I actually need a password from somebody else that I need to go and get. I didn't realize this. But anyway, just if you don't mind, I'll just talk through what's happened. I mean, the interesting...
Actually, and you know what? If you want, I don't have the screens like you have them with all the stuff, but I can share.
I mean, the most interesting thing is, I think at the moment, is still dollar yen.
Yeah.
So it's USD JPY is dollar yen.
Let me just see here. Trading view.
USD JPY.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
FX.
I got you here.
But the interesting thing is, while you're searching for that,
This one right here, trading view.
Yeah, you need to go onto the power charts or whatever it's called.
Maybe shoot the link over to me.
That's the problem. If you hover over products there at the top of your screen, products, yeah, and go to super charts. Yeah,
Gotcha.
the one.
Yeah.
And you've got Apple there, so you need to just put in your go to the plus if you want to put in your, you know how to put in JPY. So USD JPY. JPY.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, you can off that thing. That's the chart. So very interesting. The reason it's so important. Oh, sorry, you're back onto Apple, aren't you?
Didn't do it.
Not on futures. Yeah, you're on all. That's correct. Yeah, USD JPY.
Here we go.
That's the one. Yeah. And you're on a short time frame chart there, I think. Yeah, you're on daily. Okay, that's interesting. The reason Japanese yen is so important, it is this thing, as we mentioned yesterday, called the carry trade. Now, the carry trade is what drives world markets. It's actually where people really get their capital from to invest in the risk assets around the world, or a large part of the capital comes from the Japanese yen. So the Japanese have been basically trying to reflate their economy. They're actually in a period of deflation for many, many, many years. And they've been trying to reflate their economy. And they've been effectively, as we mentioned a few times, they were the first ones to go into money printing back in the year 2000. So they started this experiment called quantitative easing. And what they've been doing is they've been printing money, and they've had rock bottom interest rates. As we know, they were 0.1% until last Friday, I think it was, when they upped them to 0.25%. So when you compare that with the rate of interest in America or elsewhere around the world, the Japanese yen is still effectively nothing to borrow money. But when it was 0.1%, it really was next to nothing, literally, to borrow money from the Japanese yen. So what people did, they borrow massive amounts of money from the Japanese yen. And as we said yesterday, they can leverage that up. And they invest into higher yield things. So if you invest in Japanese yen, the most you're going to get is 0.1% return on your money. So you don't invest in it, you actually borrow from the yen and you invest elsewhere. So you're borrowing a fixed amount of yen, investing it into high yield assets. Now there's a double benefit of this, apart from leverage, which makes it a triple benefit, I guess. But the benefit is you're taking from something which yields nothing, investing into stocks, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, S&P 500, the Dow Jones, everywhere you can invest can potentially give you much higher returns than Japanese yen. Now, what this does, when you take money away from the yen, it actually depreciates the value of the yen. So what's amazing about this is you get the double benefit. Not only do you potentially get higher returns from where you're investing, like Bitcoin, for example, or the S&P 500, but also you borrowed a fixed amount. Say you borrowed $100 worth of yen.
Yep.
As the yen basically depreciates, you need to, it becomes where it's less than $100. So when you have to repay that debt, it's less than $100 that you have to pay back. If the yen were to depreciate 50%, you only need to pay back, instead of $100, $50 to repay the whole of that yen loan that you borrowed. So this is why the carry trade is so attractive, and why it's really driven world markets. And there's literally trillions of dollars gone out from the yen to invest in risk assets around the world. And the big problem is, it's not just the fact that risk assets go down in value. When that happens, people need to basically cash in those investments quickly, because they quickly get underwater, especially if they're leveraged, and they repay the yen loan. Now, as they repay the yen loan, the yen then appreciates in value. So they've got the negative double whammy when it comes back to the markets going into reverse, going down. So as the markets are going down, they're losing money hand over fist, especially if they're leveraged, but also the value of the debt is actually then going up compared with the US dollars. So you're having to pay back more and more and more to repay the debt. This is why the yen trade is key to everything. It's actually what's really it's what I said before it even happened, that we need to keep an eye on this. This was what happened back in 2008, 2007, 2008. And it's how I made a lot of money out of the markets. As I say, I did 14x at the time on the investment that I was managing. So it's very, very important to keep an eye on this yen trade. So it is quite concerning at the moment that, yes, we pushed down. We did get a push up last night, but it's not over yet. This could potentially follow through. I was hoping, and if we can move over to, for example, Jasmy, I don't know whether you've got that, but it's a cryptocurrency, Jasmy.
So the trading view wants me to join. I haven't joined that before.
Yeah, you don't need to join that. Just off that.
Huh?
Yeah, you can just off trading off the. But Jasmy was really interesting, and again, it's I will have this sorted by tomorrow. I thought I'd sorted everything. I didn't realize it wasn't allowing me to share properly. But Jasmy is really interesting. The reason it's interesting is we've actually retested a support level many times.
I seem to have it back here again. It was feeding me. It wouldn't let me X out of the ad. But I mean,
we can talk through it. It's the same with many cryptocurrencies. Actually, what we've done, we've retested. You've got it beautifully there.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can actually see if you're able to draw a line across all those support levels where your cursor is right now. All those support levels, the spikes down. It's retested that level 6 times, in fact.
Oh yeah.
And it retested again yesterday for the 6th time yesterday, and it was rejected. So the market tried to push down below that level again yesterday, and it failed to push down below that level. So for the time being, the markets have held support, and there is potential for it to bounce back up higher again, above that local high you've got right at the top there. So that's a potential positive for the markets. We can see Jasmy, it's looking pretty good now at 0.021, so 2.1 cents at the moment. And compared with where it was yesterday, I think we dipped yesterday to around 1.5 cents. So we're up 30 or 35% or something. So really strong bounce back there. And that's because it hit this very, very important support that was tested multiple times. Now, we've seen that across a number of cryptocurrencies. But the problem is, one of the things you need to be aware of when trading is not to catch a falling knife, as they say. So when markets are falling, often it is good to wait until the rebound is fully underway. It does mean that you don't catch the market at the bottom, but it's a bit of a gamble, because as we've retested that support that's been there for 6 times in a row in the past, if we were to break that support, the markets could really tank to the downside. So there is a real danger. And the dangers are obviously now monetary policy. So we've got macroeconomic, but also there's geopolitical bubbling away. As you've said throughout the start of your show, there's a lot of geopolitical tension going on.
Yeah.
And we don't know what's going to happen there with Putin, with Russia, and obviously with the Middle East, with Israel and Lebanon and so on. These things could really flare up. And as you say, potentially there could be even a limited nuclear exchange.
Yeah. And I can toggle back and forth to the charts. I just am toggling.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, we can have a quick look at a Bitcoin if you like. Bitcoin's quite an interesting one. As you say, we're bouncing around at the moment on Bitcoin. We did reach 49,000 yesterday. You can probably see 49,000.
Yeah, I mean, direct down to 49,000.
So we're up at 55,000 now. I know you said we dipped down. It's actually a little bit undecided right now where the market's going, because we have tested these lows, and you can't see it here, but it's actually quite interesting that we did test 100% of the previous move down. I won't ask you to do the Fibonacci measurements, but we just spiked slightly below the 100% extension down. So it's actually still looking corrective because we have 3 waves down, but they're all overlapping, and it's not a leading diagonal on the way down. So I still personally expect, and I was actually quite excited yesterday, you may have noticed, these markets, I said it's an amazing buying opportunity. Now, if you jumped in yesterday when we were looking at the lows yesterday, when we spoke yesterday, and we were seeing Solana down at 110, and we're now at 25% from yesterday, obviously it was a great time to jump in. Now, another important thing you said yesterday is always take profits. Don't just leave it there, because sometimes those profits can evaporate very, very quickly. And we're just saying there's potential for that today. The profits could evaporate very, very quickly. Not saying they will.
Especially with everything going on. I mean, right now, Iran just appears to be playing the Putin card and just like slowly, methodically doing their thing. But if they switch that, and everything could just collapse again so easily. Yeah,
there's been great restraint, to be fair, on both sides for the time being. Both Israel and Iran. There's been tremendous. I'm not quite so sure whether you would call it restraint when they did bombard Israel, and as you say, that Iron Shield or whatever it's called was seen to be so effective in fending off all of the missiles that came their way. So I'm not at all sure that was, that was restraint that they were showing.
And you're talking about a few months ago.
Yeah. So maybe that was the fact that Israel really was so highly advanced, and maybe Iran, have been reassessing their approach. But there's real potential for that to kick off again. So we've seen, we can see there actually the 5 waves from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see, but as I say, it's not a leading diagonal, and it's also not a 5-wave move, in fact, because it's all overlapping. So the final move down and move up was overlapping the first move down. So that tells you it's not an impulsive wave. So I still expect us to see new all-time highs for Bitcoin, but I'd still be cautious, because there is no 100% certainty in trading. And we always say there are many possibilities, and every possibility has a level of probability. And the probability actually is reasonably high, as far as I'm concerned, that we're going to reach new all-time highs for Bitcoin. But there's also a possibility that might not happen. So you've got to bear that in mind with your trading. We can look at dollar index, your DXY. I'm sure you've got that reasonably handy.
Yeah. I have a different chart I usually do, but I'll DXY here. I'll pull it up here.
Yeah, DXY, we can see it's again rebounded a little bit. Now, the reason DXY fell, normally you get dollar index is normally inversely correlated with Bitcoin and risk assets, but there are times when this correlation breaks down. So, for example, yesterday we saw the dollar collapsing, but that was because it's such an important event. And it was basically the unwinding of the carry trade. That's what they call it. They actually call it the unwinding of the carry trade. So basically, everybody is having to pay back their yen debt. And it draws money out of the US dollar, which is where most of this money is invested, in fact. The money that's borrowed from the Japanese yen is invested in dollar assets, because the dollar is still the reserve currency of the world. And nearly all assets are denominated in US dollars. And so when you borrow from the yen, you're effectively investing straight into US dollars, because all these things are denominated in US dollars. So you're effectively taking from the yen, transferring into dollars. So when you see the unwinding of the carry trade, you're then effectively taking out of US dollar back into the yen. And that's why this is the exception, when basically you're seeing dollar weakness, as we saw DXY fall sharply yesterday, but it actually correlated with risk asset weakness yesterday. And that's often not the case, because normally when you're seeing dollar weakness, it's a different thing going on. So there's an awful lot of money invested into US Treasury bonds. They are seen as the safe haven. And what happens is when interest rates fall, Basically, money often flows from US Treasury bonds because you're getting lower interest on your treasuries, and it flows into risk assets and pumps risk assets like Bitcoin. So that's the two different metrics. But yesterday, as I say, was a very special situation. The beginning of the unwinding of the carry trade that was caused by the Japanese. It was kicked off by them raising interest rates. Now, it doesn't sound much, raising from 0.1% to 0.25%, but think of it in percentage terms. It's a 250% rise in interest. 0.1 to 0.25 is 250% rise in interest. Now, if you get that in America, rising from 5.5, even if you call it 5, just to make it round figures, and went at 250%, you're going from 5% to 12.5%. Obviously, It's even a little bit higher than that. But it just shows you the magnitude of the interest rate rise that they did and what a tremendous effect it had on the carry trade. Now, we hope that this is a relatively short-term thing, because very often, the carry trade corrects, and let's hope that correction is complete and we see us push to all-time high. So my hope and my expectation is that is basically now taken out of the equation, that's happened. The markets have to reprice to price in that higher level of the yen. It's still a good carry trade, bear in mind. People say the carry trade's over. Of course it's not over, because we still have 0.25%. You can borrow at 0.25% from yen, and you can invest at 5.5%, and still these risk assets, which are now dirt cheap compared to what they were a couple of days ago.
Right.
Bitcoin, yesterday you could have bought Bitcoin at 49,000, and clearly buyers came into Bitcoin because it's already come to 55,000. So from 49 to 55 is 13% rise in Bitcoin. So clearly the carry trade is still on. It's just that the markets had to readjust. So that's why it's not necessarily the end of the world. It's not like it was in 2008. There's a lot of different things today than there were in 2008. So my view is that we're going to push to new all-time highs, maybe not straight away, but at some point relatively soon. Dollar index, I actually think we're in a big wedge pattern. I can't ask you to show that at the moment, but I will be able to tomorrow. We're in a big wedge pattern at the moment. So I think we are going to stabilize on the US dollar. So that means the yen carry trade isn't going to completely unravel or unwind. It's just a temporary problem. So I do think that we're going to see the markets rebound, maybe not right now, but rebound in reasonably short period of time. That we'll see new all-time highs for Bitcoin above that 73,000 and odd. And I think that the problem, I can see the time's almost run out. I think the problem is going to come from geopolitical direction. So, as I say, from me, I always like to summarize things. I think it's still probably a great time to be dollar cost averaging. Yesterday, I was talking dollar cost average like it's going out of fashion because the markets fell so much. They hit all these support levels. It was time to DCA yesterday. I'd just protect those positions, because if you've done it, you must be an amazing profit already, 20% or even if it was Bitcoin, 13%, you can protect a good percentage profit. Hold it for potentially more upside, but you guaranteed profit if you jumped in yesterday, as we said, DCA. I think we're going to go to new all-time highs Bitcoin, but I think that the markets are facing lots of challenges, and we will see, maybe later this year, maybe early next year, we're going to see serious trouble in the markets. But for now, I think things are looking rosy. So I'll let you go on. Let's look forward to hearing Fly Mackie. And
he messaged me. He says, Bruce, so we're gonna have to do it. I tried to stay up. He's so funny. I tried to stay up, but I gotta go to sleep. And okay, fine. But anyway, I'll play some other stuff. I've already queued up. He does it. One of the shows he does is very late, and so sometimes he tries to stay up. And
should have perhaps let him go in my place, and then I'll go on after. I mean, that's no problem to do.
I'm gonna push him to just record something. Yeah, when you have that's like with guys on the West Coast trying to come on at 3:45 in the morning. Guys, let's not do that. Just record something. Anyway,
I'm sure before we go, I'm sure you've got Solana. You're able to pull up Solana, aren't you?
I am. I just had reverse Kramer up here. Hold on. Because I was like, I put this out of my X account. I said, because NASDAQ futures dropping as if it's the end of the world. Memo to all. It isn't. I'm like, oh man, this guy is like always wrong. Now I'm really worried. Anyway, Solana. Let me pull up Solana here. So here we go.
Yeah, Solana is looking good. It's still, you can see it kind of looks corrective, doesn't it? It's very choppy sideways.
Yeah.
And although we dropped like a stone yesterday, it's actually rebounded really nicely, as I said.
And the same basic support levels here.
Yeah. I mean, that level there yesterday was 110. And we're at 138.94, so virtually 139 right now. So it has moved up massively. That can very easily be part of a correction, an overall correction. So we've had basically the first big wave down from the top on the left. The first big wave down.
Hold on.
Oh yes,
yeah.
Yeah, so the first big wave down from the top left, I've got labeled. It's a 5-wave move. It clearly is a 5-wave move. So potentially from the top left down is a 5-wave move, which is basically an impulsive wave. So it's either a wave A or a wave 1. But then we've had an ABC up for wave B or wave 2, and then we had a move down yesterday. The fact that the move down yesterday has ended reasonably quickly and bounced up, it actually looks like an overall correction of an ABC correction. So again, we may still have a little bit lower to push. We don't know for sure, but I would be looking to protect profits from yesterday. If we jumped in at that 110 level, some amazing profits, I'd actually be tempted to take them.
Yeah.
Or at least protect them anyway. You can do a trailing stop or something like that to basically trail it higher. But there's potential it could still test a little bit lower. There's still a lot of nervousness, palpable fear in the markets right now. I mean, as you say, I think Dow futures are still down.
Yeah.
No,
Dow futures are up.
Oh, okay, fantastic. So let's hope we get that bounce back today. So if we do, then we could just bounce back. And as I say, for some time, we're targeting that 210 area on Solana. If this is a correction, then clearly we are going to challenge and overtake that $210 area, and possibly.
Yeah, you see here up by about 0.5% in Dow futures.
Okay, not bad at all. We got a reasonable fall yesterday. It was about 1,000-point fall yesterday, wasn't it? So we're so far up 191 on the futures, 192 on the futures. So it's nothing major. That's not a big correction in the scheme of things. Biggest for a couple of months, I think, maybe even for a couple of years. I'm not sure, but it was a nasty little correction, but nothing in percentage terms, nothing too serious. About 2%, wasn't it? Somewhere around there.
On the Dow, yeah, it wasn't. It was percentage-wise, it wasn't that major.
Nothing too serious.
Now Bitcoin, I mean, now we got around that 20. We hit, I think, 20% briefly correction, which that felt like the old days.
It felt like the old days, but actually, it's not. Again, not really what the old days were. I mean, I've seen Bitcoin, with Mt. Gox and all those different
50%
stuff. Russia banning mining, don't forget. And I think we saw about 50 or 60% then. And 20% actually, it just shows that it is maturing. It just actually reinforces what I've said all along, that Bitcoin is on an evolutionary road, an evolutionary path. So it started off purely as a speculative asset. There was no other reason to hold it but speculation. But now it is becoming more of digital gold, and it will become more and more and more in the future. So we're actually seeing volatility on Bitcoin decreasing. Even when we get that massive move yesterday, that actually, in the context of movements in the past, is a reduction in volatility. So I'm actually quite encouraged by this. And even actually a lot of the cryptos, there was somewhat of a reduction in volatility. So I think this space is maturing, and I think will continue to mature. And we will see, as we've said all along, more and more money, especially when pension funds are starting to get the mandate to be able to invest into Bitcoin. Then that is telling you pension funds tend to be long-term holders. They're locking into these assets, which, I mean, it is a speculative asset, so it isn't going to be a major holding of pension funds, because pension funds have to generate income. And that's why they invest a large amount into treasuries, because it can generate income. So Bitcoin will never be a major holding, but even if they were to hold 5%, that would be a massive boost for Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
And that could potentially take Bitcoin to massive new highs. But you're absolutely right. Gold held reasonably solid yesterday. I don't think we looked at the gold chart. We did. I think we briefly looked at it. We're still within what looks like an ending diagonal. We may potentially have a bit lower to go, but I think we've still got new all-time highs to come. Even in this cycle of the Elliott wave cycle, we've got a new all-time high to come reasonably soon. Whether it's within another month or so, who knows? But I think that's short term in investing terms. Most people are thinking 5-year, 10-year time frame, unless you're a day trader. So I think gold is still an amazing investment, solid gold.
Yep.
And I think even beyond that, yes, we'll get another correction, but gold it is obviously the safe haven still. And we saw that yesterday, the real solidity of gold, that it stands pretty firm when markets are shaking and things are happening. When there's a real market crash, even gold falls, by the way, because
I know.
Yeah, people.
Everything falls when it goes down. It all goes.
Everything falls except the Japanese yen. The Japanese yen was the one thing that appreciated massively in the last financial crisis. So as I say, that's what I traded. I basically bought yen like it was going out of fashion, literally. I bought it over and over and over and over again as the yen was appreciating. And that's how to make money when we see the real crash. So again, we'll perhaps have a look into how to do that, which currency pairs to do that, because there are particular currency pairs that are very, very attractive in times of big, real market crashes. This is not a crash, in my view. This was just a painful little correction. So
yeah, liquidated about $1 billion of longs, leveraged longs in the crypto market. It was painful for a lot of people.
And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because a lot of people are leveraging where they shouldn't be leveraging. And actually, it's just a target for market makers to collect people's money, easy money, effectively for them. So they'll allow the leverage to probably people to pile on the leverage once again. They'll let the markets go up. People pile on leverage, but obviously they just collect the money back. People think they make a bit of a killing, and it's a bit like gambling. You make money on a leverage position, you leverage a bit more next time and a bit more next time.
Yeah.
And then once you're highly enough leveraged and you've got enough money on that leverage position, then the market makers will do a nasty correction, and they'll always find an excuse for it, whether it's the Japanese yen, the carry trade, unwinding, whatever it might be. There's always a reason for it, but they're the ones who make the money. We know who makes the money. So
it's true. 100%.
Yeah. So that's been through quite a lot today. So I hope that's good to go. Let's hope we get a continuation of the rebound. I'm hopeful.
Amazing. Well, I'll talk. Maybe I'll have Bitcoin Ben on tomorrow. So I'll let you know. That'll be fun. Bitcoin Ben's a legend. He's a legend. So maybe I'll queue him up for 6:45 Eastern Standard Time. But yeah, see if you can enjoy your day, and it's always a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, I'll get this thing sorted out for tomorrow.
I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks, Bruce. Good to catch
Cheers.
you. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
So we're talking about, of course, they're the ones that always make the money. Well, who are the ones that always make the money? Well, it's the money. It's the money lenders. It's the money printers. It's the central bank. It's the guys who control the money. And it's really it's just funny, really, because I mean, it's not funny, but it's funny in a way that it's hard for people to kind of understand. So I have a couple of my favorite videos here queued up that I like to play that kind of explain things a bit. Okay, and what is a central bank? What is a central bank? I have this one queued up for us right here. Oops, almost queued up for us right here. Add this. Okay. What is a central bank? So what is a central bank, people ask? What is a central bank?
So what is a central bank? A central bank is an institution that produces the currency of an entire nation. Based on historical precedent, two specific powers are inherent in central banking practice: the control of interest rates and the control of the money supply, or inflation. The central bank does not simply supply a government's economy with money, it loans it to them at interest. Then, through the use of increasing and decreasing the supply of money, the central bank regulates the value of the currency being issued. It is critical to understand that the entire structure of this system can only produce one thing in the long run: debt. It doesn't take a lot of ingenuity to figure this scam out. For every single dollar produced by the central bank is loaned at interest. That means every single dollar produced is actually the dollar plus a certain percent of debt based on that dollar. And since the central bank has the monopoly over the production of the currency for the entire country, and they loan each dollar out with immediate debt attached to it, where does the money to pay for the debt come from? It can only come from the central bank again, which means the central bank has to perpetually increase its money supply to temporarily cover the outstanding debt created, which in turn, since that new money is loaned out at interest as well, creates even more debt. The end result of this system without fail is slavery, for it is impossible for the government and thus the public to ever come out of the self-generating debt. At this time, the dominant families in the banking and business world were the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Warburgs, the Rothschilds. And in the early 1900s, they sought to push once again legislation to create another central bank. However, they knew the government and public were very weary of such an institution, so they needed to create an incident to affect public opinion. So, J.P. Morgan, publicly considered a financial luminary at the time, exploited his mass influence by publishing rumors that a prominent bank in New York was insolvent or bankrupt. Morgan knew this would cause mass hysteria, which would affect other banks as well. And it did. The public, in fear of losing their deposits, immediately began mass withdrawals. Consequently, the banks were forced to call in their loans, causing the recipients to sell their property, and thus a spiral of bankruptcies, repossessions, and turmoil emerged. Putting the pieces together a few years later, Frederick Allen of Life magazine wrote, "The Morgan interests took advantage to precipitate the panic, guiding it shrewdly as it progressed." Unaware of the fraud, the Panic of 1907 led to a congressional investigation headed by Senator Nelson Aldrich, who had intimate ties to the banking cartels and later became part of the Rockefeller family through marriage. The commission, led by Aldrich, recommended a central bank should be implemented so a panic like 1907 could never happen again. And in 1913, with heavy political sponsorship by the bankers, Woodrow Wilson became president, having already agreed to sign the Federal Reserve Act in exchange for campaign support. And 2 days before Christmas, when most of Congress was at home with their families, the Federal Reserve Act was voted in, and Wilson in turn made it law. A world banking system was being set up here, a superstate controlled by international bankers, acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. The Fed has usurped the government. Now, the public was told that the Federal Reserve System was an economic stabilizer, and inflation and economic crises were a thing of the past. Well, as history has shown, nothing is further from the truth. The fact is, the international bankers now had a streamlined machine to expand their personal ambitions.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
For example, from 1914 to 1919, the Fed increased the money supply by nearly 100%, resulting in extensive loans to small banks and the public. Then, in 1920, the Fed called in mass percentages of the outstanding money supply, thus resulting in the supporting banks having to call in huge numbers of loans, and just like 1907, bank runs, bankruptcy, and collapse occurred. Over 5,400 competitive banks outside of the Federal Reserve System collapsed, further consolidating the monopoly of a small group of international bankers. Privy to this crime, Congressman Lindbergh stepped up and said in 1921, "Under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figure a mathematical equation." However, the panic of 1920 was just a warm-up. From 1921 to 1929, the Fed again increased the money supply, resulting once again in extensive loans to the public and banks. There was also a fairly new type of loan called a margin loan in the stock market. Very simply, the margin loan allowed an investor to put down only 10% of a stock's price, with the other 90% being loaned through the broker. In other words, a person could own $1,000 worth of stock with only $100 down. However, there was a catch to this loan. It could be called in at any time and had to be paid within 24 hours. This is termed a margin call, and the typical result of a margin call is the selling of the stock purchased with the loan. So, a few months before October in 1929, J.D. Rockefeller, Bernard Baruch, and other insiders quietly exited the market. And on October 24th, 1929, the New York financiers who furnished the margin loans started calling them in masse. This sparked an instantaneous, massive sell-off in the market, for everyone had to cover the margin loans. It then triggered mass bank runs for the same reason, in turn collapsing over 16,000 banks, enabling the conspiring international bankers to not only buy up rival banks at a discount, but to also buy up whole corporations at pennies on the dollar. It was the greatest robbery in American history. But that didn't stop there. Rather than expanding the money supply in order to recover from this economic collapse, the Fed actually contracted it, fueling one of the largest depressions in history.
So that's kind
So
of
what
where
is
we're
a
at
central
right now.
bank?
Now, there's a couple of things I want to bring to everybody's attention here. I played this video a number of times over. We've been doing the show for 8 months now, something like that, 7 or 8 months now. And I played it a number of times. It explains it. Sometimes it's good to third-party things. I bring in a video and they say kind of what I said, or maybe they say it differently. But a couple of things on here that I wanted to point out. And one was that they said they created a super state. So that was at 340. So I just want to, and then we're going to talk about it here. 340. So that was about right here. Let's say,
Panic like 1907 could never happen again. And in 1913, with heavy political sponsorship by the bankers, Woodrow Wilson became president, having already agreed to sign the Federal.
So Woodrow Wilson became president. He was put in by the central bankers. He had already agreed to sign the Federal Reserve Act.
In exchange for campaign support. And 2 days before Christmas, when most of Congress was at home with their families, the Federal Reserve Act was voted in, and Wilson and
I talk about this a number of times. 2 days before Christmas, on December 23rd, in the dead of night, they passed the Federal Reserve Act. 1913. It was the country was sold and taken over at that point by this cartel, and they're so strong that you're not even really able to talk about it. I talk about it all the time. I don't know. I didn't kill myself, okay? But most people don't talk about it, and they're controlling everything. Now listen to what the next part of what he says about the super state.
turn made it law. A world banking system was being set up here, a super state controlled by international bankers, acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. The Fed has usurped the government.
So this is a very important statement right here, because if you remember what John F. Kennedy said, okay, so this guy, this is Louis McFadden, a world banking system was being set up here, a super state, which is what it's still what we have right now. We have super state, and it's across different states, the same central banking cartel. Okay, a super state controlled by international bankers, acting together to enslave the world for their own pleasure. The Fed has usurped the government. They've sidestepped it, usurped it, however you want to call it. So really important statement there that everybody should understand. I'm going to play another part in a minute, but our government's not in control anymore. This international group of bankers is in control, and that's why it doesn't matter who you elect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat or anything else, and they have their various ways that they have the APEC is by all appearances one of their arms, okay, and they use APEC. Everybody in Congress has an APEC guy, right? This guy told us everybody has an APEC guy, okay, and they all get money, they all get paid off, and these international bankers, the central banking cartel with the Federal Reserve, they're able to mint up as much money as they want. Money to them is like it doesn't even really exist like it does to people like yourself. Now, I also wanted to bring up another thing here at about 4:45 in this video. I'm going to play it, and it talks about how panics are scientifically created in the markets, and they crash the markets on purpose. And they were talking about a previous crash, but what we saw yesterday was again the same thing, right? You had Soros, who is tied in with the international bankers. He is one of the international bankers. He's part of the cartel, and he initiated a massive sell-off, which sent shocks through the market. And of course, I'm sure that they're raising the rates because the same central banking cartel is in Japan. Okay, raise the interest. It's all done scientifically created panics and crashes. And then they crashed all the markets. They took all of that liquidity out of the market. And then what did they do? They started buying them up again. And it might not even be done yet. Okay, so let me just, at 4:45 it was about. Let me see here. I'll start it a little bit earlier than that. Yeah, here we go.
Like 1907, bank runs, bankruptcy, and collapse occurred. Over 5,400 competitive banks outside of the Federal Reserve System collapsed, further consolidating the monopoly of a small group of international bankers. Privy to this crime, Congressman Lindbergh stepped up and said in 1921, under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figure a mathematical equation.
So this is Charles Lindbergh. Under the Federal Reserve Act, panics are scientifically created. The present panic is the first scientifically created one, worked out as we figure a mathematical equation. And what we saw yesterday was the same thing. It was a created crash, and they took a lot of money from people. A lot of money. They took a lot of money from people. And we are completely powerless to do anything about it currently. We have to kick the central banking cartels out of our country. There is no choice in the matter. And if you still like your cash, it doesn't mean we can't have the cash. We can still mint up the cash at the U.S. Treasury. We just need to get the central banking cartel out of it. Start minting up our own cash if we want to, or start using gold and silver and Bitcoin and whatever else. I know a lot of people have a little bit of allergic reaction to Bitcoin, but people are starting to get over it now that Trump is a Bitcoiner. Trump is a Bitcoiner, making his NFTs and everything else. You got to realize 90% of all the U.S. dollars are already digital. It's already digital. The U.S. dollar is already digital. At least with the Bitcoin blockchain, they really can't stop you from sending it or holding it or anything else. If you have your money in that 90% digital, then they can freeze it, seize it, do whatever they want. And if it's in the 10% that's cash, they can just inflate the heck out of it and dilute you until it's worth like nothing. Back in 1933, when they confiscated all of the gold from everybody, they gave everybody $25 per ounce, and then the fee, if you didn't turn in your gold, the fee was $10,000, and $10,000 at the time was the equivalent of $1 million right now, and that's how much they've diluted the money supply. Yeah, I wanted to. There's one other thing here. I'm just looking. Let's see here. This is Alan Greenspan. This video might be low. Let me just see here. We'll try it.
What is the
yeah, it's so low. But anyway, Federal Reserve is an independent agency. Nobody can overrule our decisions. Nobody can overrule our decisions. Well, how in the world can we have an independent agency in the United States that nobody can overrule their decisions? We're ruled by these ruled by these people. This one is fairly interesting. Let me see here. I'm not finding the one that I wanted.
default. The United States can pay any debt it has because we can always print money to do that. So there is zero probability of default.
So what that means, just to take it out of the bag for you, what that means is that we can dilute the money supply, which takes the money from you via inflation. Okay, that's what that means. And of course, here again, I'm on a roll here, so I'm going to go ahead and play this. This is central bankers in New Zealand talking about how it's great business to just print money out of thin air.
You know, the fiscal challenges, etc., that are there. So very focused on being cost effective. We actually fund ourselves and then work out what dividend is needed to pay. So we kind of work that it's a great business to be in central banking. You print money and people believe it. And play
that part again.
So we kind of work that it's a great business to be in central banking. You print money and people believe it. And
it's a great business to be in central banking. You print money and people believe it. Now, what's important is that, and the reason I play a lot of this stuff is so that people start to realize what is, why we're unable to do stuff, right? Why we're unable to change it. Now, the video I'm looking for here, so, sometimes if it's too, I guess they hide it from you, right? This is how it started here. Let me just boom.
This is Jekyll Island, where in 1910, representatives from the Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Morgans, and other private bankers gathered secretly to draft the legislation that would create the Federal Reserve. I found it revealing that in the same year the Federal Reserve was founded, 1913, the Internal Revenue Service was also established. An income tax was then instigated so you and I would have to pay the politicians' debt, plus interest, to the bankers.
The problem is we have a privately owned central bank system in the United States disguised as a government-owned system. Now, if you look in the telephone book here in the Washington, D.C. area, you look up for Federal Reserve in the blue government pages, it's not there. It's in the white pages right next to Federal Express. It's a privately owned central bank.
Central banks are banking. This is Jekyll Island, where in 1910.
This is where all our gold is that they confiscated. The gold is in the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. With the help of President Franklin D. Roosevelt, Executive Order 6102, the central banking cartel stole everyone's gold, giving them paper money in return at $25 per ounce. And the Fed, we want our gold back. We want our gold back. I want our gold back. Yeah, nobody's talking about that either, but they stole all your family's gold. They stole everybody's gold. And they said they were going to give it back, and then they never gave it back. It's the biggest heist in the history of the world. So this money lending is a big problem. Oh, Alan Greenspan, he was to announce Nasara on 9/11 before the attacks happened. Not sure what happened to him after that. I'm sure he made a boatload. Jekyll Island, forgot about that. I wanted to get into what that's about. That's where they met and they formed the evil plans, the takeover of the United States. I can't find the video I want. I'm not going to spend any more time looking for it. I will find it. It kind of explains a little bit more, but we talk about it all the time. I do want to pull up the families that are in on it here. The families that are in on it. The Rothschilds tax. So these are the families that own you and own the country. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Morgans, the Warburgs, Goldman Sachs, Lehman, Kuhn Loeb, Lazard, Israel Moses CF, Schiff, and Stillman. These are the families that own the Federal Reserve. I'm sure you don't even know any of them. Well, probably don't even know any of them, right? Probably don't even know any of them. And we have to get rid of the cartel. And it's happened over and over and over again in history. Okay, this money lending system, they keep bringing it in. And it always ends the same way because it can only end in slavery. And at a certain point, they've taken all the money or whatever, and then they get kicked out. There's really no other way. At least the cartel has got to be kicked out. Cartel has got to be kicked out. We have to kick the cartel. We have to close. We don't have to. I guess we have to close the central bank. We have to end the Fed. Any relation to Adam? I'm not sure. I don't know. Did Nikki marry Rothschild? I highly doubt it. They are very much an incestuous bunch. But not sure. Nice. Matt just fixed his computer, so we'll have our charting back up to par. Wanted to go over one of my favorites here. Well, first of all, let's see. Coin Vigilante Watches. The Coin Vigilante Watches, of course, talk about these guys. These guys are part and parcel of the big monetary revolution. The Coin Vigilante Watches. Beautiful American-made timepieces. You can go to coinvigilante.com and go ahead and get yourself one. Great company, great people. They are backed by Bitcoin Ben. Of course, I'm going to have Bitcoin Ben on the show. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Bitcoin Ben has brought me on his show a number of times. He is one of the investors here. He's one of the guys that makes it happen. Bitcoin Watch is extremely limited. Go to coinvigilante.com. Use your discount code. Use your discount code. Impact Money. Coinvigilante.com. Use Impact Money to get your 10% discount there. Support the people that support us. Coin Vigilante Watches. And you can also have these designed yourself. Okay, you can also have them designed yourself. You can get them made exactly for what you want. But of course, this is the Bitcoin watch. Beautiful, beautiful watches here. Make sure to check them out. I was just pulling up one of my charts here. One of my favorites, the Dog or Flower. Dog or Flower up 25% today. Dog or Flower. This is the whiff, the dog whiff hat of TON. And of course, I talk about TON a lot. TON is the booming ecosystem. They have, really the fastest transactions of any, or the most and the fastest and everything transactions. Let's see here, share this tab. Dog or Flower, Dog or Flower. Give these guys a repost. Oh, look, they reposted my post from yesterday. Look at that. Look at that. The Dog or Flower. I said spotlight on the wonderful world of the TON blockchain. This is my post from yesterday. But before I dive into that, let's take a moment to appreciate the star of the show, Dog or Flower. The most popular meme coin on TON. It's true. Now you might be wondering why Dog or Flower. Let me just, as I'm doing this, I'll do this. You might be wondering why Dog or Flower. Well, my friends, it's simple. This is a delightful meme coin that's captured the hearts and the the wallets of many, proving itself to be the dog whiff hat of the TON ecosystem. And let me tell you, it's been holding its ground like a champ during the recent market crash. And as you see, I wrote this yesterday before the 25% up. It really held up during the crash, though, very well. Standing tall while the others crumbled poorly, like poorly constructed house of digital cards. But enough about this meme coin. Let's talk about the TON blockchain itself. TON is like the Swiss army knife of blockchain platforms, offering a plethora of features that make it stand out of the crowd. From its lightning fast transaction speeds to impressive scalability, TON is the blockchain equivalent of a superhero ready to save the day. One more exciting thing about aspects of TON is its ability to support millions of transactions per second. Yes, you read that correctly, millions. That's like having a highway with infinite lanes, where traffic jams are a thing of the past. And with TON's dynamic sharding technology, the blockchain can grow and adapt to meet the demands of the future. It's like having a blockchain that can do splits while juggling flaming chainsaws. Dog or flower on the TON ecosystem. And you hear why TON is so amazing. But that's not all, my friends. TON is also deeply integrated with the Telegram ecosystem, making it a match made in digital heaven. With over 1.5 billion Telegram users, TON has the potential to bring blockchain technology to the masses like a digital Pied Piper, leading us all to a decentralized utopia. So whether you're a fan of dog with flower, trades as dollar or simply appreciate the power and potential of the TON blockchain, there's no denying that this dynamic duo is making waves in the world of digital assets. And who knows, maybe one day we'll all be using dog or flower, dollar or, to buy our morning coffee, make a modern day fairy tale. Dog or flower. From here, when they go back to the all-time high, it's 6x. Not financial advice. These are highly speculative, all that good stuff I'm supposed to say. Yes, he's cute, right? He's a cute dog flower. I know. That's what it's all about, right? That's why the meme coins are so fun. So if I talk about dog whiff hat is like a multi-billion-dollar market cap. As TON is already in the top 10, but as this ecosystem really keeps exploding and more people are on that, and more people see that this is the dog whiff hat of TON. I love this one. I really do. He's great. Now, speaking of this, you can hold your dog whiff hat easily on your Tangem wallet. So your Tangem wallet is a hardware wallet, and it's really easy to use. And you can even have it on your. Let me just pull it up. Oops, wrong one there. You can even wear it on your ring. So make sure to use your code discount money, impact money here as well. Okay. But you can even wear it on your ring. Look at this. Okay. Nice, beautiful hardware wallet. Don't be a sucker and store your crypto on it. Keep your crypto on an exchange. The Tangem ring. Experience the future of crypto wallets. It comes with 2 backup of the cards. Okay, you can store it in your safety deposit box, and maybe you're hide it somewhere else in your safe or something like that. And then you can wear it right on your finger, access it with the RFD thing, or with your secret keys, because you get your, not your keys, not your coins. Okay. So you can access it that way as well. And you can spend it. And they have all kinds of different partnerships going there with Visa and MasterCard and everything else. I mean, you're going to be able to trade, spend, do all kinds of stuff on this thing. Tangem.com. Tangem.com. Use discount code Impact Money. Get yourself 10% discount on this. And you can store your dog or flower on this. Tangem ring is pretty cool. I mean, that's pretty cool. The ring is cool. The ring is cool. Of course, we love doing the show. The show is wonderful. We really do. Let's see here. No. I would be, let me just see here. Down. How did you fare yesterday? Are you in the market? I'd like to know how you guys did. Did you jump in? Did you jump in the markets? What'd you do? One of my other favorites here, of course. Dalgo. The Dalgo and the Polka Gold. Both up nicely today. They both fared well during the market drop. Polka Gold is backed by Algorand. It was started anonymously by a group of Algorand and polka dot whales. Then they started this meme coin, Dalgo. It's a play, Dalgo, Algo, Algorand, Algo, Dalgo. So Dalgo is the meme coin of Algorand. They're both doing pretty well here. I think that they're both going to do very well. Mine's in your 401k. Well, that probably was pretty interesting to watch yesterday. But you can go to Dalgo.tech. Dalgo. Dalgo.tech. You see the fun meme coin. Now, what they did is probably better off. I think it's going to bounce back anyway. It's bouncing it anyway, but it doesn't mean it's not going to go further down. Dalgo is the meme coin of these guys here. Let's see. Polka Gold. The reserve digital asset commodity. So, like I say, guys, if you get into these things, not financial advice, all that jazz, okay? But it's nice to have a way out as well. Look at those ears. I know. I mean, they did a really good job with this guy, Dalgo. I like it. Dalgo. He's Dalgo. He's the meme coin of Algorand. I know how to pick them, guys. Why Dalgo? Our mission is to make crypto accessible, fun, and fair for everyone. We aim to break barriers, spread smiles, and build a thriving community. So what they did with Dalgo is they locked up about over 10% actually of Polka Gold's supply. Over 10%. Our liquidity is backed by Polka Gold, ensuring stability and security for all investors. This robust liquidity framework improves against market volatility and offers a rug-proof liquidity pool, much like a treasure chest, but froggier. So they locked it up, the supply in there, and then they launched it, and that's so. Yeah, I mean, I'm long, guys. I think they're pretty awesome. Dalgo and Polka Gold. Make sure to check them out. We got to end the Fed. Most important thing. Most important thing. All the wars and everything that you see that we're funding right now, the reason we can't stop the funding is because the central banking cartel, which I talked about earlier, has total and complete control. They have total and complete control. If you control the money, you control everything. It doesn't matter what puppet government you have. If you control the money, you control everything. We've got to end the Fed. End the Fed. And I have my main man here, Thomas Massey, up because he's leading the charge now. End the Fed. We have to end the Fed. And we have to get all these APEC guys out too. These guys need to register as foreign agents. That's what JFK made them do. They were under the American Zionist Foundation, AZF, or American Zionist Council, AZC. And it's actually Hungary just made these NGOs and everything register as well. If you're receiving money, if you're funded by another country, then you need to register as a foreign agent. And then we get to know how much they're giving everybody. And I mean, there's still a lot of ways around it, but at least like we have some transparency. So what's going on? Because right now it's like a free for all, and you see where it's getting us. So these guys have been in control since 1913. We've basically been at war since then. There's been brief little areas where we're not at war. Send our young boys and now girls off to war all the time. I think we can all agree that everything is in a mess. So if everything's in a mess and these people have been in charge, well then let's get rid of these people. Close the Fed. End the Fed. Pound end the Fed. It's on my X thing. Pound or hashtag. End the Fed. We will do it. We will succeed in closing the central bank. It will happen. The only question is when. But we will succeed in doing it. It will happen. If you're not following me on X, give me a follow at Networks Manager. Building our Rumble too. Go over there. If you're on Rumble, follow the Impact Money Show. I am out of here. I'm going to be back on your TVs in about 5 hours. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.